$47,000, 30 years saving penny by penny, and at the family gathering I discovered that my own brother-in-law had spent it all, home renovation, new car, even a gold watch, while I was eating eggs every day so I wouldn't run out of money. If you've been through something similar, or know someone who has, please give this story a thumbs up so more people can see it. Sometimes we need to know we're not alone. Well, my name is Harry, I'm 71 years old, and if you've got a few minutes, I want to tell you a story that still hurts deep in my chest. A story about trust, about family, and about how sometimes life forces us to discover strength we never knew we had. I was always one of those men who worked from sunrise to sunset, 42 years as a construction foreman, building houses for other people, always dreaming of the day I could finally rest. When I retired 6 years ago, I thought, now it's my time. My Dorothy had already passed away a year before, and I was learning to live alone in this world. It ain't easy, let me tell you. Waking up without the smell of her coffee, without her asking if I wanted an extra spoonful of sugar. But life goes on, you know. One thing I learned working all those years is that money doesn't grow on trees. Every penny I earned, I saved with care. I had a savings account, one of those old-fashioned ones where you actually go to the bank, and I'd record each deposit by hand in my little book. $5 here, 10 there, 50 when I had a little extra. Over 30 years, I saved $47,000. Now that might not sound like much to you folks listening, but for me it was everything. It was my guarantee that I wouldn't be a burden on anyone, that if I got sick, I'd have the money to take care of myself. It was my freedom, my dignity sitting there in that account, safe and sound. Tell me something. Do you worry about becoming a burden to your children too? The family always knew I had this nest egg. When Patricia, my daughter, needed money to finish nursing school, I helped with $2,000. When Marcus, my son-in-law, wanted to expand his auto repair shop, I lent him $3,000. When Jessica, my granddaughter, got married, I gave $5,000 for the wedding. Always lending, always helping. But nobody had ever asked for everything at once. It was one of those Sunday family dinners. Everyone gathered around, conversations flowing, kids running everywhere. I loved those moments. They made me feel like I still mattered to someone. Raymond, Patricia's brother-in-law, showed up later than usual. He was always one of those guys who talks big, acts like he knows everything, works in construction like I used to, but on the sales side. Always full of schemes, always got some new project cooking in his head. After dinner, when everyone was in the living room watching TV, he pulled me aside to talk on the back porch. "Harry, can I run something by you?" "Sure, Ray. What's on your mind?" He sat down in the chair next to mine, stared out at the backyard for a few seconds before speaking. "You're losing money keeping everything in that savings account." I chuckled. "Losing money how? It earns interest every month." "Come on, Harry, you don't get it. Those pennies that savings account pays you is nothing compared to what you could be making." I explained to him that I was a simple man, that I didn't understand all this investment talk, that for me what mattered was having my money saved up, safe and sound. "But that's exactly why I'm talking to you," he said, getting excited. "You don't need to understand it. I understand it. Let's become partners." Then he started explaining. Said he had a golden opportunity in the construction materials business, that he knew suppliers, had the experience, just needed the capital. "What do you mean, Ray?" "Simple. You put up the money, I bring the know-how. We buy materials straight from the factory, sell them to small contractors. Good profit margins, guaranteed customers. I'll admit I got interested, not so much for the money itself, but for feeling useful again. It had been a long time since anyone asked my opinion about business, about work. It felt like I was becoming the old Harry again, the one who built things, who made things happen. But Ray, that's a lot of money. It's everything I have." "Exactly. That's why it's going to work. You're investing in something solid with someone you trust. It's not some stranger off the internet. It's me, your brother-in-law." When we went back inside, Patricia could tell we'd been talking about something important. "Dad, did Ray tell you about his idea?" "He did. What do you think?" I looked at her, at Marcus, at Jessica. They were all watching me expectantly. "I'm still thinking about it, honey. It's a lot of money." "Dad," Patricia sat down beside me, "you always said you wanted to leave something for the grandkids. This could be your chance to really make that money grow. Marcus nodded. Harry, Ray knows this stuff, and you've always been smart with money. Together you two could really make something happen. Even Jessica, who was usually glued to her phone, looked up. Grandpa, nowadays savings accounts barely earn anything. My economics professor says so all the time. I left there that afternoon with my head spinning. For the first time in years, I felt excited about something. I spent 3 weeks thinking it over. 3 weeks staring at that old account balance, doing the math in my head. $47,000. If it worked out, it would be a real inheritance for the grandkids. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about having a purpose again, being part of something bigger than just existing. After Dorothy died, after I retired, some mornings I'd wake up wondering what I was even good for anymore. On a Tuesday morning, I worked up the courage and called Ray. Ray, it's Harry. You got a minute? Always got time for you, Harry. What's up? About that business proposition, is it still on the table? You bet it is. You made a decision? I have. Let's do this partnership. I could hear the excitement in his voice. That's fantastic, Harry. You won't regret this. We're going to do real well. He came over the next day with all the paperwork. Pages and pages of legal documents with tiny print. I put on my reading glasses and tried to make sense of it, but most of it was over my head. Ray, what's all this fine print about? Oh, that's just legal stuff, Harry. Business partnerships always have all this paperwork. The important part is right here. He pointed to a section in the middle. You're putting in $47,000 in capital. I'm bringing the technical knowledge and the connections. We split the profits 50-50. And what happens if things go wrong? They won't, Harry. But if they did, each partner's responsibility matches their investment. At the time, I didn't really understand what that meant. Now I do. I signed those papers with shaking hands. The next day, we went to the bank together. With a heavy heart, I closed the savings account I'd been building for 30 years. The bank manager asked twice if I was sure about this. I am, son. I've thought long and hard about it. $47,000 got transferred into an account Ray had opened for our business partnership. When we walked out of that bank, he gave me a pat on the back. Well, Harry, now we're officially partners. I got home that afternoon feeling strange, relieved and scared at the same time. If only I'd known what was coming. The first few weeks were fine. Ray would call every now and then, updating me about suppliers, prices, opportunities. Harry, I found a cement supplier in Ohio who's selling way below market. We're putting in our first order next week. That's great, Ray. How much are we talking? About 500 bags to start. Small investment, but we want to test the waters. These conversations got me excited. It felt like things were really happening. But after about a month, I started noticing some odd things. Whenever I asked about receipts or documentation, he always had some excuse. Oh, Harry, all that paperwork stuff is handled by the accountant. You don't need to worry about those details. But I'm a partner, Ray. I want to stay on top of things. Of course, of course. Next week I'll bring everything over, nice and organized. But next week never seemed to come. 2 months in, I was over at Patricia's when Ray pulled up in a brand new car. A silver Honda Accord still had the dealer plates on it. Well, I'll be, Ray. That's a beautiful car. You financing it? Finance? No, sir. Paid cash. My heart started racing. Cash? Where'd you get that kind of money? From the business profits, of course. See, I told you this investment would pay off. I felt happy and worried at the same time. Happy because it seemed like things were working out. Worried because I hadn't seen any profits yet. Ray, what about my share? When do I get to see some returns? Easy there, Harry. It's still early days. We need to reinvest those first profits so the business can really grow. Give it a few more months and you'll see real money. I left there with an uneasy feeling. Something wasn't adding up. Over the next few months, things got stranger. Ray started dodging my calls. When I did manage to reach him, he was always in the middle of something important. Harry, I can't talk right now. I'm about to close a huge deal. I'll call you back. But he never called back. One afternoon, I needed money for a doctor's appointment. Nothing major, just $300, but I didn't have it because I'd invested everything. I called Ray. Ray, I need to pull a little money out of the business. Just 300 for a doctor visit. 300? Right now? Yeah, just for this appointment. I'll put it back as soon as I can. Harry, you don't understand how business works. This is a critical time. We're expanding. Taking any money out now could hurt everything we're building. But Ray, it's only $300. Harry, trust me on this. Just hang tight a little longer. Pretty soon you'll have way more than $300. I hung up feeling sick to my stomach. For the first time, I started wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. I had to reschedule that doctor's appointment 3 times until I could scrape together the money by selling some of my old tools. The truth came out in the ugliest way possible. It was at my great-grandson's birthday party, little Tyler turning 5. The whole family was gathered at Patricia's house. It had been a nice afternoon. The boy was playing with his new toys. Everyone was chatting, that warm family feeling in the air. I was even starting to forget about my worries with the business. But then Ray started drinking. First beer, second, third. By the time he'd had a few too many, he was talking loud and showing off. You all know I'm pretty good at making money, right? Check out this new watch I picked up. He held up his wrist, showing off a gold watch that caught the light. $1,200, paid cash for it. Jessica complimented him. Wow, Uncle Ray? That's nice. Business with Grandpa must be doing really well. That's when he laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. What business? There ain't no business. The room went dead silent. I felt my heart stop. What are you talking about, Ray? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Come on, Harry, quit playing dumb. There never was any business. That money helped me fix up my house, pay off Linda's credit cards. He gestured toward his wife. Buy this car, this watch. You said it yourself. It was like an early inheritance. My world collapsed, just completely fell apart. I felt dizzy, weak in the knees. $47,000, house renovation, paying off debts, new car, gold watch. Ray, you're drunk. Stop talking nonsense. Patricia tried to calm things down. Drunk? I'm telling the truth. There never was any business deal, everybody. You all knew that. That's when I looked at my daughter and saw something in her eyes that broke my heart even more. She had known. The way she couldn't meet my eyes, the way she hung her head. I realized she'd known all along. Patricia, my voice came out like a croak. Dad, You knew about this? Her silence said everything. Marcus was staring at the floor. Jessica was pretending to be busy with her phone. Ray, realizing he'd made a mess, tried to backtrack. Hey, calm down, everyone. It's not as bad as it sounds. We'll pay Harry back little by little. No need to get all worked up. Little by little, I managed to ask. Yeah, Harry. Maybe $100 a month until we're square. That's only, let's see, about 40 years or so. 40 years. I was 71 years old. In 40 years, I'd be 111 if I lived that long. I stood up, grabbed my hat, and walked out without another word. Nobody followed me. I got home that night feeling a pain I didn't know existed. It wasn't just about the money. It was the betrayal, the humiliation, the feeling that my own family had played me for a fool. I sat in my kitchen, the same spot where Dorothy and I had shared coffee every morning for 45 years, and I cried. I cried harder than I had since the day she died. The days that followed were the darkest of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep properly. I kept staring at my bank statement, seeing just $53 left from my monthly Social Security check. Patricia called several times, but I didn't answer. When she showed up at my door, I wouldn't open it. I wasn't ready for her excuses. For a solid month, I lived like a ghost. I ate eggs every single day because that's all I could afford. I cancelled my cable TV, stopped my newspaper subscription, cut out everything that wasn't absolutely necessary. For the first time in decades, I knew what it felt like to count every penny. But you know what's strange? It was right there at rock bottom that I started finding strength I never knew I had. Have you ever been there? Ever felt betrayed by the people you love most? It happened on a Wednesday morning. I was sitting in my kitchen drinking black coffee, no sugar, trying to save every cent, when I noticed an old shoebox on top of my bedroom dresser. It was a box where Dorothy used to keep her treasures. I hadn't touched it in years. I carefully got it down and opened it slowly. Inside were old photographs, letters, some of her jewelry, and there at the bottom, wrapped in one of her flowered scarves, was the portable sewing machine she'd used when we were young. A little black Singer, all decorated with scrollwork. I could still smell the machine oil mixed with her perfume that had soaked into the fabric over the years. Dorothy had taught me to use that machine in our early married years, when money was tight and we had to fix everything ourselves. "Harry," she used to say, "a man who can sew will never go hungry." I picked up that machine, cleaned it carefully, and tested it. It worked perfectly. It was like it had been waiting for me all these years. I sat there in my kitchen with that machine on the table, and for the first time in months, I felt something like hope stirring in my chest. First, I needed money for supplies, thread, fabric, needles. I looked around the house for things to sell. The big TV in the living room, got $300 from a neighbor. The stereo system I hardly used anymore, $200 at a second-hand shop. A recliner that was just taking up space, $150. With $650, I went to a fabric store downtown. I hadn't been in a place like that in decades. The smell of new fabric, all those colors and patterns, it was like stepping back in time. "What are you planning to make?" the young woman at the counter asked. "Aprons, tablecloths, maybe some throw pillows. I'm starting fresh." "Starting fresh?" "That's right, dear. At 71, I'm starting fresh." She helped me pick out fabrics, simple but nice stuff, materials that would go far without costing too much. I bought thread, elastic, bias tape, buttons, everything I'd need. Back home, I set up my little workshop on the kitchen table, machine on one side, fabrics on the other, my reading glasses always hanging around my neck. I tuned the radio to a country station and got to work. My first apron came out pretty crooked. It had been so long since I'd sewn anything. My hands were shaky, my eyes weren't what they used to be. But the second one was better, the third one, better still. I finished 3 aprons that first day. They weren't perfect, but they were honest work, well made. Now what, I thought. How am I going to sell these? I started with the neighbors. Eleanor, who lived next door, had always been kind to me. I knocked on her door one morning. "Morning, Harry. How are you holding up?" "Doing all right, Eleanor. I wanted to show you something." I showed her the aprons. Her face lit up. "Harry, did you make these yourself?" "Sure did. I'm selling them. $15 each." $15? That's a steal. You can't find a decent apron in any store for less than $30. I'll take 2 of them. $30 on my first day. It didn't seem like much, but to me it was everything. It was proof that I could still create something people valued. Eleanor must have talked to the other neighbors because the next day I had 2 more orders. An apron for her friend, a tablecloth for her daughter. It wasn't easy going. One day the machine broke down and I had to spend $50 to get it fixed. Some days my eyes got so tired I couldn't work. Other days my hands hurt so bad I could barely hold a needle. But gradually, I found my rhythm again. I'd wake up at 6, have my coffee, turn on the radio, and start working. I'd break for lunch, rest a bit, then work until about 5 in the evening. This wasn't a business that was going to make me rich, but it was making me feel alive again. After 3 months of working every day, I realized I had a good eye for choosing colors and combining fabrics. Customers started asking for my advice. "Harry, what color would go best with my kitchen curtains? Harry, could you make a slipcover for my couch? Harry, would you consider making a baby blanket for my new grandson?" I kept learning, experimenting. When Jessica started visiting me again after a few months, she showed me some YouTube videos about sewing techniques. I watched everything I could, trying to adapt the ideas to what I could manage. My proudest moment came when Margaret, an elegant lady who lived a few houses down, asked me to make table linens for her golden wedding anniversary party. "Harry, I want something really special. Can you do that?" "Absolutely, Margaret. We'll make something beautiful." I spent 2 weeks on those tablecloths. I chose a soft beige fabric, embroidered the couple's initials in gold thread, and finished the edges with hand-sewn hems. They turned out gorgeous. When she came to pick them up, she actually got teary-eyed. "Harry, this is artist-quality work. What do I owe you?" $100, Margaret. $100? That's way too little. Here's $150. $150 for 2 weeks of work. It wasn't much by some standards, but it was honest money. My sweat, my creativity, my dignity turned into something valuable. After 6 months, I was making about $400 to $500 a month. Not enough for luxuries, but enough to live with dignity. It was on a Saturday afternoon, 8 months after I'd discovered the truth about Ray's betrayal. I was sitting on my front porch having coffee and listening to the radio when I saw a familiar car pull up. It was Patricia. She got out slowly, like someone who wasn't sure if she was welcome. She stood by the gate for a few seconds before ringing the bell. "Hi, Dad. Patricia. Can I come in?" I opened the gate. She walked in hesitantly, looking around like she was seeing the place for the first time. "Dad, Ray's in trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "Legal trouble. Turns out he owes money to a lot of people. Not just you. The police came to his house last week." I stayed quiet, waiting for her to continue. "Dad, I knew there wasn't really any business, but I thought somehow he'd find a way to pay you back. I didn't know he'd done this to other people too." "Patricia, you're my daughter. You watched him lie to me and you didn't say anything." "I tried talking to him several times, Dad, but he always said he'd work it out, that he'd find a way. And I was afraid of causing problems in Linda's marriage. So it was better to let your father get hurt." She started crying softly. "No, Dad, it wasn't. I was wrong. I was so wrong." I looked at my daughter and saw a tired woman, ashamed, full of regret. But I also saw the same person who had let an old man get swindled right in front of her. "Patricia, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Dad." "If it had been a stranger doing this to me, would you have let it happen?" She shook her head. "No, Dad, I wouldn't have." "Then why did you let it happen with Ray?" Because I thought since we were family, things would somehow work out. That family problems always get resolved somehow." "Well, honey, I thought the same thing. In that conversation, I didn't feel anger toward Patricia. I felt a quiet sadness, like when you look at an old photograph and realize that time is never coming back. Dad, can you forgive me?" "You're my daughter, Patricia. Of course I forgive you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting." "I know, Dad. And it doesn't mean going back to the way things were. I understand that too." I showed her my little sewing business. The finished pieces, the organized fabrics, her mother's machine working perfectly. "Dad, you made all this yourself?" "I did. Your mother taught me when we were young. Now she's teaching me again, in a different way." "Are you making money with it?" "About $500 a month, sometimes more. It's not much, but it's honest work. It's mine." "Dad, if you want, I could help you get more visibility online. Maybe find more customers." "Maybe, honey. But we'll do it my way, at my pace." "Of course, Dad, however you want to do it." She left that afternoon, promising to visit the following week, and she did come back. Not like before, not with the same easy confidence, but she came back. She set up a Facebook page for my work and posted pictures of the things I was making. I started getting customers from other neighborhoods, even other towns. Tell me, those of you listening, have you ever had to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? How did that work out for you? Today, a year and a half after that terrible day at Tyler's birthday party, I wake up every morning at 6 with a purpose. I have my coffee, with sugar again now, turn on the country music station and head to my work corner. The kitchen table has become my little workshop, but it's organized and efficient. I have one drawer just for thread, another for buttons, a box for fabric scraps that can still be used. Everything in its place, just like Dorothy always taught me. I'm not rich, no sir. I make about $600 to $700 a month when business is good. But it's clean money, money that comes from my own work, from these hands that still know how to create beautiful things. The house isn't the same. Where I used to have a big TV, now there's a table with fabrics sorted by color. Where I used to just exist, now I really live. I wake up knowing someone's going to call with an order for an apron, that some bride is going to want me to make tablecloths for her wedding. The funny thing is, I've discovered I enjoy talking with my customers. They come to pick up their orders and end up staying in the kitchen, having coffee, talking about life. Kate, who lost her husband last year, comes by every week just to chat. Sandra is raising her grandson alone, and always asks my opinion about fabric colors. Frank, who lives 2 streets over, comes by to order dish towels because he says mine are nicer than the store-bought ones. I've become like the neighborhood tailor. I mend torn pants, hem dresses, fix whatever needs fixing. Small jobs, but they make a difference in people's lives. As for Ray, things didn't end well for him. 3 months after our conversation, the police discovered he'd pulled the same scam on at least 5 other people, mostly elderly folks, people who, like me, had trusted his word. He was arrested for fraud. He's facing charges now. The house he renovated with my money is going to be auctioned off to pay restitution. They already took his car. Patricia told me his wife left him, took the kids. He lost everything. When I heard about it, I didn't feel happy. I felt a quiet sadness. That's not how I wanted things to end. But sometimes consequences catch up with you, don't they? The lawyer says I might get $10,000 or $15,000 back when everything's settled. It'll take about 2 years, but I might see part of my money again. You know, sometimes I wonder, if I could go back in time, would I do things differently? Would I not give Ray that money? Today I know I would do things differently. Not because of losing the money, but because of how I found out the truth. The humiliation in front of my family, the feeling of being treated like a fool. But I also know that pain taught me things I might never have learned otherwise. It taught me that I still have plenty to offer this world. It taught me that these hands can still create, that my experience still has value. It taught me that you can be betrayed by family, but you can't let that stop you from trusting the right people. Kate, Sandra, Frank. These people gave me back my faith in humanity. And it taught me that starting over has no age limit, that at 71 you can still discover talents, still build a new life. Patricia visits every week now. It's not like before, but it's better than silence. She helps me with social media, takes my work to show her friends. Sometimes she brings Tyler over to spend the afternoon here. Marcus still seems uncomfortable when he sees me. I think he feels guilty about supporting Ray. But we talk normally, and he's even brought me some customers from his auto shop. Jessica has changed the most. She comes over, sits at this kitchen table, and asks me about sewing, about life, about how I managed to bounce back. It seems like she's learning something from me. At Sunday family dinners, when I don't go every time, only when I feel like it. The atmosphere is different, more respectful, you know. Like they finally understand that I'm not the same old man who used to hand out money to everyone. Now, when someone needs help, I help in my own way. I'll make a free apron for a neighbor who's out of work, mend clothes without charging someone who's going through hard times. But cash money, I don't lend that anymore. I learned that some lessons can only be learned the hard way. You want to know something? Today I wake up happier than I did when I had $47,000 in the bank. Sounds crazy, but it's true. Back then, I'd wake up with no purpose. Have coffee, read the paper, watch TV, eat lunch, take a nap, have dinner, and go to bed. Next day, same thing all over again. It was like I'd retired from life along with my job. Today I wake up knowing I have work to do, people to serve, orders to fill. Today I wake up knowing I'm still useful, that I still have something important to give to this world. Was the money I lost important? You bet it was. $47,000 is no joke. But what I gained in return was more important. I found myself again. I discovered that I don't need much to be happy. I need my health, my work, a few people who genuinely care about me. I need to feel like I still have value, that I can still contribute. Dorothy's sewing machine humming on the kitchen table, the smell of new fabric, the satisfaction of seeing a piece come together just right. You can't put a price on that. There's something I want to say to you folks listening, especially the older ones. Don't give up on life just because someone betrayed you, just because you lost money, just because you felt humiliated. I could have given up. So I could have spent my time nursing grudges, could have become a bitter old man who just complains about life. But I chose to try again. It wasn't easy. Some days my hands hurt so bad I couldn't work. Some days my eyes got tired, the machine broke down, money was tight. Some days missing Dorothy hit so hard I thought about quitting, but I stuck with it. And today I can say it was worth it. I'm not rich. I didn't get back everything I lost. But I got something more important. I learned to respect myself again. I can look in the mirror and like what I see. I discovered that even at 71, even after being betrayed, even with little money, I can still be happy. And you folks listening out there, have you ever had to start over after a big loss? Ever discovered you had strength you didn't know existed? While I'm telling you this story, I'm sitting here at my table, finishing a set of table linens for a birthday party. The afternoon light is coming through the kitchen window, golden and warm, just like that light Dorothy always loved. The radio's playing an old Hank Williams song, one of those classics about simple living, honesty, the work of your hands. My reading glasses are hanging around my neck, my fingers guiding the fabric with the same confidence that once guided bricks and mortar. In a little while I'll stop, make my afternoon coffee, sit on the front porch and watch the neighborhood come alive. Tomorrow I'll wake up early again, fire up the machine again, start another day of honest work. It's not a rich man's life, it's not a movie star's life, but it's my life. It's honest, it's dignified, it's mine. And you know what? That's enough. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever had to start something important over in your life? How did it go? I read all the comments. I like hearing your stories too. If this story touched your heart somehow, if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it. Sometimes we need to know we're not alone in this journey. A hug from someone who's been through the storm and discovered that after, it always comes the calm. Losing $47,000 taught me something priceless, that real wealth is in our hands, in our ability to start over, in our worth as human beings. And you, have you discovered what your real wealth is?